You have got to stop thinking of meetings as just another activity that you have to do. Meetings are actually your secret advantage as a manager. And let me explain why. Welcome to the Modern Manager. My name is Mamie Canfor-Stewart. I'm so glad you've joined me today to talk about one of my absolute favorite topics, meetings. While this might sound too good to be true, I promise you that meetings are truly a powerful lever for culture change. They are a reflection of your culture. And small changes in your meetings can have a powerful ripple effect on the culture throughout your organization. Now, before I dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I share episodes and tips and tricks for managers every week, and you won't want to miss a video. Think about the last couple of meetings that you walked into. What did it feel like in the room, virtual or physical? You can often get a sense of the culture, of the dynamics, of how engaged people are or aren't, simply by observing and paying attention to what's happening in the room. Meetings are one of the most tangible examples of seeing your culture come to life in real time. So humor me for a second and see for yourself. In your meetings, do you prepare an agenda ahead of time to help the conversation stay focused and on track? Do people multitask because they're not super engaged? Do people feel like they know why they're there and are able to actively contribute and share their biggest, boldest thinking and push back on ideas? The answers to these questions aren't just about engagement and efficiency or productivity. They're actually about the culture of your organization and how people feel about the work they're doing and the way that they're collaborating with you and your team members. So if you have ever said things like, we value collaboration or we embrace diverse perspectives, and you want to know if it's true, just take a look at your meetings, because that's where you'll see if these values are coming to life. Now, here's the best part. Changing culture can feel and be overwhelming and difficult and a long-term process. But changing your meeting practices, that's actually quite straightforward and pretty simple to implement. When you change your meetings, it sends a signal to everyone that these new behaviors are expected and supported, and that can then bleed out into the rest of the organization so that you start to change your culture from the inside out. So here are a few practical shifts that you can start to implement right away. Start by having a clear agenda that identifies the one goal of your meeting. When you know exactly what your meeting is trying to accomplish, not just what you're going to do during the meeting, but really what you're going to achieve, it helps everyone come more prepared. It helps you keep the conversation on track so that you do move your work forward and get to that outcome. We all know that when you write goals down, you're more likely to achieve them. And the same is true for a meeting. So if you're setting goals for other parts of your organization's work, why not set goals for your meetings? And if you're not setting goals for the rest of your organization's work, starting with your meetings can help build that habit. Next up, pay attention to who is taking up a lot of airspace and who's maybe being a little bit quieter. When you start to follow practices of inclusivity and getting everyone to speak up and share their thoughts, it really changes the dynamic of the conversation. You can do this in a couple of different ways. You can offer for people who haven't yet spoken to speak first when you're at a transitional moment in the conversation. You can also just make space and allow there to be some silence. You don't have to fill every minute of a conversation. You can just say, I'd love to hear from some people who haven't spoken yet, and then just let there be silence. You can also take advantage of some of the virtual tools that allow for anonymous input, or even just putting comments into the chat during a virtual meeting. Those are all great ways to get more voices and more thinking in the room and demonstrate that you really do want to hear from everyone. Lastly, if you are in a decision-making meeting, make sure that you have clarified two things before you dive into the conversation. The first is, what does a successful outcome look like? What is the exact decision you're trying to make? Or are you not even actually making a decision? You're just in discussion mode. Or are you coming up with a recommendation that's going to be approved by someone else? Being clear about the decision and what stage you're at in the process is so important for everyone to feel like they understand what their role is and where they're at. And the second part of that is clarifying who the decision maker really is. Is everyone in the room have an equal voice and equal weight in the decision? Or are one or two or three of those folks the actual decision makers and everyone else is there as an advisor? When people know their role and where they are in the process, they're much more empowered to fully participate and feel good about the decision, even if it's not the choice they would have made for themselves. These kinds of changes do not require massive budgets or big cultural shifts. All they require is for you to lead with intention, to focus on your meetings and what you can do as a leader to help people feel more safe to share their ideas, more empowered to understand their role, more involved to help get to the desired outcome that you are aiming for in your conversation. When your team sees you acting in these new ways, they will embrace that and they will take that back to their everyday work. You will be role modeling for them what these new desired behaviors look like. And the more that you do them and the more people feel empowered to do them too, the more it will bleed out into other parts of your daily life. And before you know it, you will have transformed your team's culture without having to ever do any intentional culture work. Remember that meetings do not just fill up your calendar. They are actually a powerful reflection of your culture. They reflect the values, the behaviors, the processes, all of the things about your organization show up in your meetings. So take advantage of that. If you want to understand your culture, look at your meetings. And if you want to change your culture, start by changing your meetings. Now, for more tips on how to be a rockstar manager with a thriving team and how to lead effective meetings, go to themodernmanager.com. But while you're here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video and check out my latest.